Welcome to another episode of Healing into Femininity, Healing into Feminine Power. My name is Joanna Fatonji, and today we are at the end of our love series. And ultimately, it is all about self love. You can only bring love into this world when you fully love yourself by becoming love. You have to become love. That is the truth. You have to become love in order to live a tangibly autonomous life, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. The source of it all is to become love by deconstructing everything that makes you believe that you're separate from love. That is the feminine way, that is the real spirituality. And that's what we're diving into today. So get yourself a snack, get yourself a glass of filtered water, dim your light, and get out your journal. Because, as I always like to say, these are master classes in itself. You actually would have to pay me, but I decided to share those information because I believe that it still will not be as potent as it can be if you don't pay. Because the real tool for transformation is to actually pay the spiritualist. And I am a spiritual. The foundation of all of my work is spiritual work. And there's a law in spirituality as well, in energy, in this world. It is exchange. You have to give before you can receive. So that's why consuming all this free content, even though this is highly, highly valuable, it will not bring you anything if you don't pay for it, if you do not equally exchange something. But dive in, get out your notebook, and write down what comes up for you. Because ultimately, another thing that I teach is you are your own goddess, you are your own authority, right? You are your own authority. So, this week we're diving into mastering the energies of love. We have focused on the strategies that enable us to love and love well. We've looked at the 6 love supplies. That was most of our experience and express the ways that most of us experience and express love with one another. We've looked at the practice of forgiveness, especially self forgiveness, as a shift in perception that enables us to see love's presence again, that comes from within us. And in the last video, we spoke about the Johari window by Abraham Maslow, who helped us to see how we can open ourselves more. If you remember, it was the open, hidden, it was the blind spots, and then the true potential. The thing that is blocking you from creating a life that you truly desire in all areas of your life is that you don't see yourself. And what you don't see is your own humanity. Most people who are interested in spirituality are flying away on the love and light train, on the love and light flight. And it leads you nowhere, right? Just like people go to India or even like African, indigenous, or diaspora people go back to African practices, which I think is valid, absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's about you understanding that you hold the power, and the power is in your shadow. The power is in your humanity. The power is in your root, in your sexuality, in your sex life drive, in your survival, in your fear, right? This is also where the fear is. What are you afraid of? In your um, in your pursuit for power and privilege. As I always like to say, everybody wants power and privilege, and most people don't even acknowledge that about themselves. So you want power and privilege, you have to look at the root. Okay, so this is what the Johari window helps us to see more of ourselves and to dare to share more of who we truly are with the world. And that is sharing more of our humanities, of our selfish desires, which are I want more money. I want to only engage with people who treat me well, right? I want to be the star of my own life. I want to be autonomous. Don't get on my nerves. You know, like those also very natural desires that we get trained out of. That is the programming of patriarchy, of racism, of classism, depending on where you grew up or in what kind of class or environment you grew up in. You were probably trained out of your natural desire for space, for beauty, for luxury, for self love, for self trust. And this is what we're going back to, because that's what it is. And we find that in the shadow. So we are taking a look at how to unblock ourselves to receiving that which we want most by identifying and addressing our upper limit problem. The upper limit problem is a term coined by Gay Hendricks, which I have also trained with. I trained with Gay Hendricks as part of my training with my institute. And this upper limit problem in his book, The Big Leap, is your upper limit problem is like a thermostatic setting for the amount of good that you will allow in your life, right? This thermostat sets the tone, right? You are the thermostat, not the thermometer. The thermometer just measures the setting in the room, but the thermostat sets it. So you are the set point of what you allow in your life, with the people in your life, with your job, with the amount of money, with the love, success, abundant health, right? You decide. And if you don't decide to receive more, you will never get more. And this is what they discovered. Gay Hendricks and his wife Katie, they discovered that they could sustain a state of connection and positive energy in their relationship, but only until a certain level. And then they got curious about why, right? And this is what happens, like when you only have a certain capacity. We spoke about that too in the other video. So if you're new here, go back to the other videos of that series. We spoke about that too. And capacity is the real ability to hold something. There is potential, but potential is nothing, right? What really matters is capacity. So you have to be able to hold the goodness, the money, the success, the visibility, the power, right? And if it collapses again and again, this is your level of capacity. It's not really strong, right? And many people have a capacity in how much love and harmony they can actually sustain. And many people, if they have a peaceful life, a lot of time, space, peace, no chaos, a lot of room for creation, sometimes even a little bit of boredom. This is when most people collapse back into creating drama. This is when the mind searches for drama, but we don't need that, right? We want the peace, and this is where we have to readjust our setting, right? So this is like the example here. Gay Hendricks and his wife, they always found that they would have an argument when it got too peaceful. And this is where they found that they had something in themselves where it would be like, yeah, you don't deserve this much good. You don't deserve this much peace and this harmony. So they unconsciously created the things that messed it up unconsciously. And we all do that at certain levels in our lives. Like we believe that we can't handle that kind of opportunity. So there is something unconscious that makes us trip it up, self sabotage, right? So Again, look inside your life where you are self sabotaging yourself for this level of opportunity, of visibility, of success, of love, of friendship, whatever it is that you desire, right? And after a while, they got to a point where they could see it coming. Maybe you too. Like they would feel the sweet space, yeah, where they felt a great relationship, and then they could feel somehow that it's beginning to slip out of their hands. But instead of starting a fight or doing something that will sabotage them to get into a conflict, they would recognize it. This is the power of awareness, right? And decide to handle it in a more positive way. So we have had as much positive energy as we can handle right now. Let's talk about that, right? They said that they felt okay, that's enough. Let's separate. Let's You go here, I go there. Let's separate from each other. I'm going to the movies and you're going to do something else. That's why I absolutely believe I am at a point in my life where I actually don't believe that I will ever get married. And I'm very happy about that realization because I've always been a very strong woman, a very headstrong woman, a very powerful woman. I've always known that I had power to do what it is that I wanted, and I've used it well. I love myself. I really do. Like from the child self that I've been, and to the teenager, to the young woman, I've always gone for what it is that I wanted, invested like multiple six figures into myself, into my business, into what it is that I do. And now I have arrived at the point that I realize I want to stay free. And it gives me so much energy. I want to stay an autonomous woman. I don't want to get married. And if there is a man that wants to treat me well, who wants to spoil me, who wants to give me money and take me on trips and buy me property and buy me designer bags and beautiful experiences, he's welcome, nothing less. And if he's not there, then that's also fine. So, why I'm saying that is also realizing that that is a secret to actually stay in a good vibration. I believe, especially with people, everybody needs space. Even if it's good, like at one point, people will start getting on your nerves, and that's just fine. I mean, there's no problem about that. You can still love them, you can still love them from afar, but why do we need to be together all the time, even as a married couple or as friends? That is the center of autonomy, understanding that I want to do my own thing. And I believe that that's that's that is who we truly are as healthy whole beings, individuals. We want to just do whatever we want and not be in too many relationships that demand like time and energy from us. Yes, commitment for a short time in terms of committing to doing something together, right? I'm not speaking about cheating necessarily, but spending time doing something together. But we want to be free. That's what I 100% believe. So, this is also a secret here in terms of allowing good in your life, right? They learned, Katie and Gay Hendricks, they learned that gradually they felt, okay, this is the limit of us being together, and now we need to separate our ways. And I believe, again, as I said, even if I ever decide to let a man come close to my life, it needs to be very spacious. And knowing how to recognize when you have expanded into as much good feeling as you can, and knowing when you can take a break will save a lot of heartache in relationships and open you up to a more positive flow of energy, right? Realizing, you can also take another example in relationships, realizing when you have hit the capacity of it feels good to be together, to, okay, now you're getting on my nerves. Separate, do your own thing instead of fighting. It's a waste of energy. I also know that once you really love yourself and you're very happy and content with yourself, you don't really have the energy anymore to get mad. Like that's what I realize about myself. Like I'm not mad. It's either, can I talk about this thing with somebody? Are they, do they have the capacity to actually understand what I'm saying or what I want? If they don't, I don't waste my breath to argue. So the next thing here is step number 2 is a success mantra. Create a success mantra. The upper limit is about contraction, right? There's always, that is a universal principle. There's always expansion and contraction. It's like breathing in and breathing out. It's like the pumping of the heart, right? Is also contraction and expansion. This is also the intestines, yeah, where your food is being digested, is also contraction and expansion. That is our, like our arteries and our veins, right? They also pump blood. So movement is contraction and expansion. That's a universal principle, right? And the upper limit is a contraction. It's about staying small, right? But then after the contraction is is expansion, right? You first realize something through the contraction where you feel stuck. That is not the time to stay stuck, but it's the time to just realize, oh, that's what's happening. And then the antidote is to expand beyond that thermostatic setting. So that could be a level of income, right? Or that could be, yeah, how much love you accept, how much visibility you accept, right? Without self destructing, without self sabotaging. Okay. So in his book, The Big Leap, Gaze offers this success mantra. And it's like, I expand in love, success, and abundance every single day as I inspire those around me to do the same. It's just like the saying by Emile Coué, who says, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better, right? This is a little bit more explicit. I expand in love and success and abundance every single day as I inspire those around me to do the same. Try this out. It's reconditioning your subconscious mind to expand, to receive more love, to receive more money, to receive more help and love. Right? That's very important. Contraction comes for expansion, but use the contraction as a signal, as a sign, as a feedback for you to change your capacity to receive more. Number 3, strategies for dealing with with a difficult relationship issue. Gay was in an emotionally volatile relationship in his 20s, and the woman he'd been married to would always start arguments with him. After a while, Gail realized that they were always having an argument about the same thing. They both felt like the other was holding them back. Check if you also felt that way before with somebody. And to be honest, I can say that about me. I have been single for the past 5 years. I have dated, yes. But I have always felt that the man that I found, like after my engagement, like almost 6 years ago now, I have always felt that none of the guys were actually the person that I could grow with. Right now, I understand, like, I would only date a millionaire and up who actually had done some personal inner work. And that's why I always got rid of the people that I dated, because I always felt like they would be holding me back if I actually was interested, let alone I wasn't really interested in them. But also think about that for yourself. Like, we subconsciously know, I have to do more work on myself. I actually want to be selfish and invest more in myself. Take the time to think, to work on myself, to travel, to do the things that I like, to make money, right? So Gay asked himself, what is the lesson that I need to learn from that? Right? that I can't learn any other way. I love that. I'm going to say that again. What is the lesson that I need to learn from her that I can't learn any other way? Because there is also a thing in our life, like that's the whole karma thing. We attract the people as like as long as we still have to learn something, we attract people. Also, when it's not positive, we attract them so they can show us something, they can teach us something inside of us. And he realized that this was an opportunity for love, or to love the part of himself that was like his ex-wife. He realized that there were the magic. He realized that where the magic happens is when you see the other person as a reflection of an unloved part of yourself. Ooh, I love that. I knew that, but I forgot it. But yeah, yeah, that's it, right? We see, if we meet somebody in our lives and we're like, what is this person teaching me? You have to see them for a part of yourself. This is also why I don't really engage in the rage bait, clickbait conversation of the narcissist. If you ever attracted a narcissist, it's because you are also a narcissist, right? You have a narcissistic tendencies, and that's true, right? Many women, I believe, that say, oh, I have been harmed by a narcissist. You are a narcissist too, probably a covert narcissist. And also, many women never learn to really articulate what it is that they want because it's buried so deep inside their subconscious mind that they don't dare to actually say it. I always like to say, women love power. I love power. I love power. I love to wield my power. I use my power to create. I use my power for myself. I use my power to be fit and beautiful and to make money and to attract the clients that I love. And I use my power to, yeah, to make to create the life that I desire. That's what I use my power for. I'm not going to pretend that I'm powerless. No. And one part of me in the past was still testing her power. So I saw what kind of men I could attract, and I saw that I attracted the so-called powerful men. And then when I didn't exactly get out of the attraction what I wanted, I realized that I believe that the more I communicate what it is that I truly want, and at this point it's money, right? I want money, I want experiences, I don't want sex or just being desired, because that does nothing for me. I know I'm desirable, right? I've figured that out. And so what I'm trying to say here is that I have been the bait, and I put myself out there, and I knew what kind of caliber men I attract. So now that's off the table. But what I learned in one encounter was that this guy, he was probably highly narcissistic, but so are thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people on this planet. And I believe every one of us is narcissistic to a certain extent. And he was like highly narcissistic. And instead of blaming him and seeing myself as a victim, because I always refuse to see myself as a victim, I applied exactly this teaching. I realized that I saw him as a part of me, which is like super sexual, super ambitious, super um, alpha, super go getter, building, creating communities and businesses and wealth. And he was a great speaker and manipulator, and a person, and I would call him a politician. He was a politician, and I saw that. I was attracted to that because I have that in myself too. Think about yourself, be honest with yourself. What is a part that you still condemn? And I always say, as long as you keep your shadow in the shadow will rule you. But once you get your shadow out into the open, you become conscious of the unconscious, what rules you, and that is the pursuit of power and privilege. I always say that. This is when you can actually use it well and then negotiate, engage with people in you want something, I want something. What am I willing to trade for what I want? What are you willing to trade? And do we match here or not? If we don't match, I have no problem to move on, and you have no problem to move on, right? That is the goal, to understand what it is that you truly want and then decline all of the offers that don't match your price point. Good. So spend time loving that part of yourself as self and embracing that part of yourself. Embrace your shadow. Embrace the part of you that you are rejecting the most, right? So don't blame yourself for that, because what you want to do is wonder about that part of yourself, get to know it, find out, right? Don't give yourself a hard time for having some unloved parts. No, we all do, but get to know that part. And again, as I always like to say, that is the true shadow work. That is the true work. And it's the most liberating work, because underneath all of that judgment is your true power, right? We are all always going to be coming across people we don't get along with in other ways, like in another way or one way or the other. And the magic happens through when you look inside and say, what's that about for me? What do I see in that person that was or is a part of me? One thing that I always like to say or also think about is sometimes people are either like a younger version of you, or people are a higher version of you, right? Maybe sometimes there are parts in somebody that you feel triggered by that are like an underdeveloped part of you. They're not mature. They have been like maybe stupid and naive or uncultivated. That has been you in some degree. And then there are people who are already everything that you desire to be. And maybe those people trigger you, but that's an indicator that this is who you're becoming, right? So it's either an underdeveloped part of you, or it's already like an aspect of your higher self calling you. So always ask yourself, if you judge people, if people trigger you, if you judge people, to ask yourself, what about that is for me to learn here? Like, why would I be creating drama with this particular person, aka creating a trigger, right? Stay in the wonder, stay curious about it. So the most important thing for you is to understand that you can only be in love more of the time than not when you are no longer triggered, right? When you are no longer extremely triggered. Many people um, hide themselves and try to go to the ashram or to the sanctuary or to the monastery or whatever, but that's not the true spiritual path. Like, we're speaking about a spiritual path of evolution, of creating more power, more beauty, more health, more money, more privilege, more power, because I believe that's the true spiritual path in the evolution of life. And we need to get triggered in order to learn. And we need to get triggered in order to integrate that version of ourselves into ourselves. So if I trigger you, you want to look at yourself and ask yourself why. Maybe I'm a part of you that is inviting you to become greater, right? But most of all, ask yourself, what is it that you need to look at, right? Who are the people in your life that you want to look at and then stop being triggered by, right? If somebody gets on your nerve, ask yourself why, right? And tell yourself, I expand in love and success and abundance each and every single day, and I inspire those around me to do the same, right? That is the real work that we're here in this world. We're here to grow and become more beautiful, more articulate, more powerful, more of a businesswoman, make more money, and live a better life, whatever that looks like for you. That is our true spiritual path. And this will inspire other people, This will inspire other people. It's not about you saving anybody. No, you are doing the greatest service to humanity by becoming the greatest version of yourself, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, aka not getting triggered all the time because you want to stay more or less stress free. You can avoid to get triggered, and if you get triggered, that's a sign for you to level up, and then you want to get more financially free. This is the evolutionary path, and that's how you serve humanity, by becoming the best version of yourself and by inspiring others to do the work in and on themselves as well. And I personally believe, especially as a woman of color, a woman who maybe comes from a very rigid system, that could be coming from a very privileged family or coming from a culture that is um, that sees women a certain way. I believe the most powerful thing that you can do in order to shift this world is to be a powerful woman who doesn't play along the rules that have been set by someone else, but you create your own rules, and the rules are self preservation, self awareness, and being a sovereign woman. Yes. So if you want that, if you want to create a life that you desire in freedom, in beauty, in luxury, in opulence, in growth, in joy, in pleasure, in freedom, right? Really freedom, then contact me. You find the links in the description box below. And if not, stay where you are. And yeah, the light went off, and that's my sign to go. I see you in the next one. Bye.